we've been walking alongside Jesus as he has emerged now fully in public ministry, listening for lessons, looking for examples, hoping for inspirations and guidance and answers. And today we discover some amazing and not so welcome lesson. Comes to us from Luke chapter 9, verses 12 to 17, and I'll be reading the words in yellow print and invite you to read aloud together the words in white. Late in the afternoon, the 12 came to him and said, "Send the crowd away so they can go to the surrounding villages and countryside and find food and lodging, because we are in a remote place here."
He replied, "You give them something to eat." They answered, "We have only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, unless we go and buy food for all this crowd."
About 5,000 men were there. But he said to his disciples, "Have them sit down in groups of about 50 each." The disciples did so, and everyone sat down.
Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke them. Then he gave them to the disciples to distribute to the people.
They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. So my daughter wants me to quit using plastic straws in restaurants. And she'll look at me with those eyes the way only a daughter can look at a father. Because she knows I know what she thinks about how so many stories are of plastic that simply will last forever and ever, somehow all too often finding its ways into major waterways and causing unnecessary damage to fish and wildlife. We're killing the dolphins with our straws. And she's right. But I also know that my straws are likely to end up in a landfill in Pike County. Or maybe one out here by the gas stop, and it just is hard to care enough to change. The secret of life, the challenge of life, is learning what it is you need to care enough about to change. So maybe she's right about the environment and what I should and shouldn't do. Maybe I'm right. Maybe we're both right. It seems to be not altogether unusual in life. I have some ideas of what might be best for the congregation. You have some ideas about what's best for the congregation. I might be right. You might be right. We all might be right. We have ideas about what's best for the community, for the state, for the nation, for the world. I might be right. You might be right. We all might be right. We all might be wrong. I have some ideas about God. And you have some ideas about God. And some of those we share in common, and some of those we wouldn't. And I might be right. And you might be right. We all might be right. Is it possible we might all be wrong? This particular experience of Jesus with his disciples, I think, is a great opportunity for us to reflect upon what we think about God and what we think about ourselves. And how is it that God operates? You've likely heard Let's just imagine these people. I've heard that this new teacher is down not too far from the lake. And I decided, oh, what the heck, everybody else is going, I'll go too. Nothing on TV this afternoon anyway. So I go. I walk. That's how much I want to hear this guy. I'm going to walk. And I'm going to go, and despite the crowds, because people like me, we don't really like crowds. 5,000 men, plus the women, plus the children, it just sounds chaotic to me. But I want to go and hear this guy. They have been saying that he's unlike any teacher they've heard. That whatever it was about the lifelessness or lack of enthusiasm among the other teachers, is Jesus has something that grabs you, and apparently it does. I mean, we know from our experience with Jesus so far that a lot of people want to catch him in a generous moment. That's what crowds do. Hey, can I have your autograph? I can sell it on eBay. Hey, maybe like Elvis, you might buy me a Cadillac today just because you're in a generous mood, right? Hey, Jesus, maybe you can heal my grandfather. They're not all frivolous. And maybe we're just hungry to hear somebody talk to us about God. Because what we've been hearing and what we've been experiencing and what we see in the world suggests that God may be absent altogether. So let's go listen. And so we're there. And what is almost incomprehensible to us, they do stay for hours. I'm not sure if we can listen to anybody say anything for hours anymore. We got 6 minutes in between commercials. We can concentrate for 6 minutes, maybe. But for hours, we're just enthralled, inspired, intrigued, something, and we're just listening. And I have known maybe a handful of people in my life. And if I can go and I can sit down and have lunch for them and stay all day and be sad when it's finally time for us to face facts. I guess this has to end. Jim Payton has been one of those people in my life. Let's just sit down and talk. Let's sit down and complain about church people, Jim. And the time becomes meaningless, and the connection is all that really matters. I imagine some of these people must have felt that with Jesus that day. And it's amazingly empowering to be in a group of people who are all on the same page, all experiencing the same energy at the same time. It must be the least alone a person will ever feel. But even in the midst of this great power, this great synergy, eventually people get hungry. The disciples, probably wanting to avoid a riot, say, let's not let this good thing turn sour. It's time to shut it down, Jesus. We know you have a hard time stopping, but stop. Let's send them out to the villages. They had to go get some food. It's the easy solution to the meal. It's the solution we all want. Dear God, give us the easy answer to solve the world's problems. The least involved we have to be, the better. Lord, send them out to take care of themselves. No, he says. You've been watching me, and you've been doing as I've asked you to do. You've been listening to me, and I even sent you out 2 by 2 into the countryside, and you did some healing, and you came back with some stories, and you have some ministry experience. But this is the next big, hard lesson. You don't sit back and watch when people are hungry. You don't send them off to fend for themselves when they're hungry. You give them something to eat. Okay. Well, we just grabbed this little kid, has some fish and some loaves. I'm not quite sure if a few loaves and a few fish is going to feed 10,000 people, but you know, this is what we've been trying to avoid, a rush for limited resources. It's what human life is all about, a rush for limited resources. But okay, we'll do it. And here's where we discover the difference, some of the difference between the ways people think about God. And we may all be right, we may all be wrong. They offer up what they have. And for some, God just simply multiplies it. You've got, what? A couple of hundred groups of people sitting in groups of 50 out there. We offer what we got, and God just multiplies it. And everybody gets fed, and we even get more left over than we started with. And it's such a wonderful feeling to believe that God will simply just multiply everything there for us. It's the next best thing to not having to do anything. God, you can take care of this. Maybe that's the way it works. Maybe that's the way it was. Maybe that's the way we ought to think. Maybe that's the miracle, the wonder, the splendor, that wonderful, innocent, warm feeling we get about God. But maybe in our lives, in human nature, what we sometimes want so much is not a God of peace and justice who's going to put us to work. What we want is a fairy godmother. What we want is a genie. Sign me up. 3 wishes. And the first one is as many wishes as I want. Sign me up for that. Sign me up for the wise, kind wizard, the good witch, somebody who can give me something for nothing right now. There's something in us that wants that. It's the way many of us experienced our childhood, right? It's the thing that many of us as parents tried to train out of our children. That thought that everything is just simply coming out of nowhere and handed right to us. At some point we try to teach them, no, actually, mom and dad, and grandma and grandpa actually goes out and works and to set it down before you in your nice clean clothes and your shoes that match the favorite style of all the kids in your class. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. And yet, there's something that we like about this notion that God just multiplied it. Some would call it naive. But what I tend to think about this event is even more naive than that. Because I ascribe to the notion that when the disciples followed Jesus' example and they simply offered what they had, that invited everyone else to offer what they had. After all, these people weren't idiots. They walked off from their homes, their village, out to listen to Jesus. They had a knapsack. They had food stuck away. Like any good, sensible person, there's at least some crackers in the purse, or there's a sub that are wrapped up and put in the cooler. There's something that I brought along. But if I bring out my food in the midst of all these hungry people, what's going to happen to me? But I saw the example, and I heard the prayer of blessing, and I saw these guys offering what they knew was not enough, but offering it anyway. And that inspired me to say, you know what? Here, I got a few crackers and a sub sandwich. We can probably break this in half, and we can pass it around. And, oh, that's cool. You brought some bananas. I didn't even know they grew bananas in this part of the world, but here they are. And everyone inspired to share what they had, to follow the example set for them, to just offer what they could offer. And what's so naive about this is there's a notion in my mind, in my heart, that people can change. Some folks will tell you that is the most foolish thing you can imagine. People do not change, do not expect it. Certainly don't devote your life and put your heart on the line expecting people to change. It's much more likely that God just fulfilled a wish and multiplied everything than that 5,000 men in particular, the women and children along with them, change from being self-centered and protective to being generous, from pursuing an individual agenda to being part of a greater mission. Naive to believe that people respond to a lesson and an example and inspiration. But either I'm right or I'm wrong. And what's left over for me is this glimmer of hope that if they can do it, we can do it. That if God operates by opening people's minds and inviting them into shared ministry, to call them out of their individual protective small worlds into a group effort to do something wonderful. And that's the way God operated then, it's the way God operates now. If it could work for them, it can still work for us. As naive as it sounds, and it sounds more and more naive every day I watch the news. The world is not generous. People are not gracious. They are not forgiving. They are hateful and divisive and selfish. That's all I ever see. To believe that in such a cruel and bitter and harsh world, that we can just stand up and set an example. The example we think has been handed us by God, to simply offer what we have and who we are in hopes that other people will respond. To believe that it's still possible, to believe that it might still work. What's left over for me from this story is not just the miracle that people are fed because they do what they can. To me, it's a miracle that we still believe it's possible. Because once we quit believing it's possible, then we're all lost. So thank you, God, for the example, for the lesson, for passing it down to us. Thank you for that just enough naivete in each of us to believe that people can change, to believe that even we can change, that somehow we can have an impact on the world. Thank you, God, for giving me enough faith and enough foolishness to keep believing. Let us pray. Like children of faith, oh God, we come to you, knowing that however you work these miracles, it is by your grace, through your faithfulness, because of your generosity, and because of the feeble, frail efforts of people like us. And we'll continue, O God, to offer ourselves to you in your service and to seek your guidance, your wisdom, your inspiration, your help, your hope, your love, as we try only to understand who we are and why we're here. Yes. Help us, O God, to be your people and to serve you well. In Jesus' name.